Question number 13. Would you favor raising a tax to improve our schools? Would you favor raising a tax to improve our schools? Mr. McDonald?
One-word answer is yes. I think that, once again, at all costs, we need to preserve the quality of education. It dictates the success of our state in the long run, and our ability to educate our young children, to give the best possible higher education to our college-age kids, and to keep them here, promoting the state of Missouri with a high-level, world-class education is paramount. I mean, I don't think we can think of one thing that would outpace that for the development and the success of our state. I can't.
Mr. Aziere?
It's easy to raise taxes, but it's not easy to figure out how to do that. What I mean specifically is what kind of a tax, who would be the person that would be the burden of that tax? I think that the economy as it is dictates to us that this is not the time to raise taxes. Yes, I would like to see education get better. I don't think that you necessarily make education better by spending more money. I think that what you do to make education better is to have a better educational system. And again, that would take place by returning control of public education back to the local school districts. Take it out of the hands of the federal government. I'm not sure this really is a money question. It's about how we do business in this country. And we have seen education slip under the No Child Left Behind. That was not a money problem. It's how we're going about it.
Question number 14. Are you in favor of photo ID? Are you in favor of photo ID? Mr. Aziere?
You know, every time I go to get a library card, I have to have a photo ID. Matter of fact, I have to have a photo ID almost everywhere. I'm not certain why it's such a big deal to have a photo ID when you vote, when everywhere you go you're required to have a photo ID. It leads me to suspicion of why people would say no photo ID for voting, when we do it every day. I'm not opposed to it. I don't think it's a huge issue. I think it might be a huge issue maybe in Chicago where 60,000 people voted in 1960 who are dead over 100 years. The history of voting fraud in this country is traditional almost. We expect it. And the people that oppose it are people generally who don't want that to be blindsided. So I would support it.
Mr. McDonald?
Well, I oppose the whole idea of people having to produce a photo ID when they go to the polls. First of all, the cry is voter fraud. There's, anybody that can produce one instance of voter fraud in this entire country should step forward. There just doesn't seem to be one. The problem is voter ID, photo ID, displaces about 250,000 people inside our state, mostly disadvantaged, non-English speaking. College students, military, are all going to be at a disadvantage to cast a ballot when it comes time for election. 250,000. Unfortunately, that's 250,000 mostly on the Democratic voting side. So it's easy for a Republican administration to say, gee, we need that voter ID, but the unfortunate fact is it displaces 250,000 people who are really not likely to try and cheat with at the ballot box.
Question number 15. Will you support a right to work law? Will you support a right to work law? Mr. Aziere?
Well, I oppose right to work laws. One of the concepts of a right to work law is to do away with unions. And what I will tell you is that, as an example, Lebanon, Missouri had a Levi factory. They moved that factory to Lebanon because they did not want a union, and indeed for years it operated without a union. When Levi decided to close that factory, about 800 people lost their jobs. They took that factory to China, and because what they really truly wanted was child labor. So they went to Lebanon because they didn't want a union, and then they left the United States because they wanted child labor. I do believe that the important thing is to protect the middle class American, and I believe that includes unions.
Question number, Mr. McDonald.
I also am opposed to right to work. It's mostly union-busting legislation. It's hard on labor. It's an attempt to reduce the prevailing wage, the living wage for the American people, reduce the standard. You know, they call it the right to work for less, and that's just exactly what it is. It's nothing but a guarded attempt to take away a real serious working wage for the middle class Americans.
Now, question number 16. Would you respect the final vote on issues of 80% of the people in the state of Missouri? Would you respect the final vote on issues of 80% of the people of the state of Missouri? When the people of the state have voted on something, would you respect that vote? Mr. McDonald.
Well, absolutely respect the vote. And I would guess that this is in relation to referendums that have been overturned at the state level.
I think so.
There have been several instances in the last few years where referendums have been put before the people. They've passed with a pretty substantial vote, only to be overturned by the State House of Representatives in the following years. Gun control was one of them. Conceal and carry was the first one that I remember being overturned. It was passed overwhelmingly by the voters of Missouri, and yet 2 years later was brought up on the House floor, and that law then became non-law. It was overturned, and conceal and carry became a law. So that was the first one. The most recent was the puppy mill bill, which dealt with care of animals by pet breeders. Passed overwhelmingly at the state level in a referendum, and yet was overturned that year.
Mr. Aziere?
Well, I do believe in the democratic system and the voice of the people. As an alderman, I have always paid attention to my constituents. We have had really several issues that dealt with the public vote. One was on prayer. The people in Missouri voted that they wanted to be able to pray publicly. Another one was the Proposition C, which was the largest survey in this country that voted against Obamacare. There have been a number of times when the people of this state have spoken on issues of what they want. Referendum is another one. The question is, should the people have direct input or not? I believe that they should. If we do believe in democracy, if democracy was what people fought wars for and offered their lives for, if we place the faith in this system, we should give the people a louder voice.
Candidates, thank you. It's time for your 2-minute closing remarks. So please take a minute to gather your thoughts while I say thank you to the audience. You all have, for your thought-provoking questions and your attentiveness to the answers. I think that there have been quite a variety of questions brought up, and I realize that not all of the questions were asked, and that's just because of time, and I hope that you heard your question. If you want to pursue something that didn't get asked, I think the candidates will be here for a few minutes to talk with you about some of those things too. In drawing our numbers, we decided that we would flip, and Mr. McDonald would begin with his closing remarks.
Okay, well, thank you. I'm sure we all wish we had just a little more time because there are so many questions. And I always enjoy a forum like this for the opportunity to both ask and answer some of the issues. I'm sure we'll all leave here tonight knowing just a little more than we did when we came in, and it's always a great thing. Here we are again in an election year, very important time in all of our lives. There are a number of important issues on the ballot for Missourians coming up, referendum issues. We can't promote it or say enough to everyone who is a participant to make sure they do their part and vote. It's probably in recent history we haven't seen this much animosity around the electoral process in any time that I can remember, and I've been around a while. So I would encourage everyone to make sure that they get out the vote, help people to understand, and make sure that we all do our part to keep our state moving forward, help with its success, make its decisions, put the best people in office, work diligently to keep our state viable, on track. We all need to join together, stand up and do something. I've always said, don't complain unless you're willing to do something about it. And I think everybody needs to adopt that philosophy. It's the easiest thing you can do is gripe and complain and take the bottom road. I think that that commitment belongs to all of us, and we all need to step up, stand up, get busy, and do something, anything. It's important. I feel like I've done a good job. I feel like and it's about all I can say. Time's up.
And Mr. Aziere?
This is an opportunity for the people of Raytown, the Raytown School District area, mostly Raytown, to elect someone to represent them from District 28. I've lived here for 42 years. My opponent has never lived in Raytown. I shop in Raytown. I've always shopped in Raytown. I do most of my shopping in Raytown. My opponent, I'm assuming, rarely shops in Raytown. 93% of my campaign funds came from people of Raytown. 1.25% of his money came from the people of Raytown. $250. The rest came from big business. It came from the gambling. I taught the kids in this community. I don't even know how many kids he knows that grew up in this community. I've buried them. I've been to their weddings. I've met their children. I've even been the godfather of their children. I see them in grocery stores. I see them in the coffee shops and the car wash. Because I'm in this community every day, all the time. When they need something, when they have a question, they call me. This is about District 28. It's about electing somebody who knows the people, understands what they want, what they need. For most of these people, they want safe neighborhoods, good schools, and they just want a job. That's what I stand for, and that's what I will represent. It's not about the party. It's about the people. It's about the issues. For the past 13 and a half years, I've been very responsive as an alderman. If I am so fortunate to be elected to this position, I will have that same responsiveness to the people that I see in the grocery stores, that I see in church, and I see every day in my community. Thank you for being here tonight.
And thank you to both of the candidates for participating tonight. I want to say one more thing, and that is to share this insight that you've received tonight with your family and your friends, your neighbors. You've heard a lot of you have a lot of information that they were not able to hear tonight. So be sure to share that with them. Be sure to get out to the polls and vote in the election on Tuesday, November 6th. And if you know anyone who is not registered to vote in this election, they can do so at any Mid-Continent Library, the City Hall, or the License Bureau until Wednesday, October 10th. That's the last day to register. So check with your neighbors and family to make sure everybody does that before October 10th. Thank you very much and good night.